Before anything else, understand this. The change people are searching for is rarely in something complicated. It's usually hidden inside something simple, consistent, and easy to overlook. Fajr is one of those things. It doesn't look dramatic, it doesn't feel loud, but it quietly rebuilds a person from the inside out. There is a moment before sunrise when the world is still. No noise, no pressure, no expectations. Most people are asleep, disconnected from that time. But the one who wakes up for Fajr steps into a space that feels almost untouched. That space has a different weight to it, a different kind of clarity. Allah describes this time in the Quran with meaning that points to its depth. He says that the recitation at dawn is ever witnessed. That alone should make a person pause. Witnessed by who? The scholars explain that the angels of the night and the angels of the day gather at this time. It is a moment where your presence, your effort, your voice is seen and recorded in a way that is unlike the rest of your day. When you consistently wake up for Fajr, something subtle begins to shift. You start winning your first battle of the day before the world even wakes up. And that matters more than people realize. Most people lose their mornings. They wake up late, rushed, distracted, already behind. Their day starts with reaction instead of intention. But Fajr forces you into intention. You don't just wake up. You choose to wake up. You don't just move. You respond to a call that is bigger than your comfort. That decision builds something powerful inside you. Discipline, but not the kind that comes from pressure. It's the kind that comes from purpose. Allah says in the Quran that prayer restrains from shameful and unjust deeds. Think about that carefully. The one who consistently prays, especially at the hardest times like Fajr, is being shaped into someone who naturally avoids wrong. Not because someone is watching, but because their inner state is changing. Fajr doesn't just affect your mornings, it affects your identity. There is also a connection between Fajr and clarity. When you wake up at that time, your mind is different. It's not cluttered yet. It hasn't been filled with noise, opinions, stress, or distraction. You meet your thoughts in a pure state. And when you stand in prayer during that time, your focus has a chance to deepen in a way that rarely happens later in the day. Allah mentions that mankind was created weak, icily pulled in different directions, but Fajr strengthens you in a way that feels almost invisible at first. You begin to notice that your reactions change. Things that used to frustrate you don't hit the same. Your patience stretches. Your ability to stay calm grows. It's not random, it's connected. There is also something about Fajr that builds trust between you and Allah, because no one else is there. No one is praising you for waking up. No one is clapping for your effort. It is one of the most private acts of worship you can do consistently. And that sincerity carries weight. Allah says that He knows what is hidden and what is even more hidden than that. When you wake up for Fajr, you are doing something that is mostly hidden from people. That act becomes something purely between you and Him, and that kind of relationship changes everything. Over time, you start to feel it. Not in a dramatic way, more like a steady grounding, a quiet confidence, a sense that you are not alone in your efforts anymore. There is also a direct link between Fajr and Baraka, the idea of blessing in time. People often feel like their days are slipping away. Hours disappear without meaning. But when your day begins with Fajr, time starts to feel different. You notice that you can do more with less. You feel less rushed, less scattered. The Prophet taught that there is blessing in the early part of the day, and that blessing is something people feel, not just measure. It shows up in focus, in energy, in outcomes that seem smoother than usual. When someone neglects Fajr, it's not just a missed prayer. It often sets a tone of delay, of heaviness, of disconnection. But when someone protects Fajr, it sets a completely different tone. A tone of awareness, of intention, of alignment. There is also something deeply psychological happening. When you consistently wake up for Fajr, you prove to yourself that you can overcome your own comfort. That matters because most people are controlled by their comfort without realizing it. They only act when they feel like it. They only move when it's easy. Fajr breaks that pattern. It teaches you to act based on purpose, not mood. And once that lesson settles in, it spreads into every part of your life. You become someone who can show up even when it's hard. Someone who doesn't wait for perfect conditions. Someone who understands that growth lives on the other side of resistance. Allah says in the Quran that those who strive for Him, He will guide them to His ways. Fajr is a form of striving. It is a quiet struggle against sleep, against comfort, against excuses. And that struggle invites guidance. Guidance doesn't always come as a sudden realization. Sometimes it shows up as better decisions, as clarity in confusion, as doors opening at the right time, as protection from things you didn't even see coming. Another powerful aspect of Fajr is its connection to peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from everything going your way, but the kind that exists even when things are uncertain. When you begin your day in remembrance of Allah, it anchors you. It reminds you that no matter what happens later, you're already connected to something stable, something constant. Allah says that in the remembrance of Him do hearts find rest. That rest is not tied to your circumstances. It's tied to your connection. People spend their days chasing that feeling of calm. They look for it in distractions, in validation, in temporary escapes. But Fajr offers it at the beginning of the day before anything else even begins. There is also a long-term effect that many don't talk about. Fajr shapes your future self. The version of you that you are becoming is being built in small, repeated actions. And Fajr is one of the strongest builders. Every morning you wake up for it, you are reinforcing a pattern. You're telling yourself again and again that your relationship with Allah comes before your comfort, that your purpose comes before your sleep. And those repetitions compound. They turn into identity. You don't just become someone who prays Fajr. You become someone who is consistent, disciplined, aware, and grounded. Allah speaks about those who guard their prayers, not just those who pray occasionally, but those who protect it, who treat it as something valuable. And then He describes their success. That success is not limited to one area of life. It spreads. It shows up in your mindset, in your decisions, in your relationships, in your ability to handle challenges. Fajr also changes how you experience the rest of your prayers. When you start your day with Fajr, the other prayers begin to feel like checkpoints instead of interruptions. Your day becomes structured around remembrance instead of being broken by it. And that structure brings stability. It keeps you from drifting too far into distraction. It pulls you back again and again into awareness. There is also a spiritual protection connected to Fajr. The Prophet taught that whoever prays Fajr is under the protection of Allah. Think about what that means. Protection not just from physical harm, but from spiritual loss, from misguidance, from things that could quietly damage your life. That protection is something you carry into your day. You walk differently when you know you are under that kind of care. Another layer to this is accountability. Fajr trains you to hold yourself accountable even when no one else is watching. And that is one of the most valuable traits a person can develop. Because at the end of the day, your life is shaped by what you do when you're alone. Fajr lives in that space. It tests your sincerity, your discipline, your priorities. And if you pass that test consistently, it strengthens your character in a way that nothing else really can. Allah says that He does not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. Fajr is one of the most direct ways to begin that internal change. It forces you to confront yourself, your habits, your excuses, your priorities, and slowly it reshapes them. There is also something about the quiet of Fajr that makes dua feel different. When you ask Allah during that time, it feels more focused, more real. You're not distracted. You're not rushed. You're present. And that presence deepens your connection. Over time, you begin to rely on that moment. It becomes your space to reset, to reflect, to realign. No matter how chaotic life gets, you know that you have that time waiting for you. Fajr also builds resilience, because there will be days when it feels harder than usual. Days when you're tired, when your motivation is low, when everything in you wants to stay in bed. But those are the days that matter the most. Because when you show up anyway, you strengthen something deep inside yourself. You prove that your commitment is real, and that resilience doesn't stay limited to prayer. It spreads into everything, into your goals, your work, your relationships. You become someone who can endure. Allah describes the believers as those who are patient and consistent. Fajr trains both. It requires patience to wake up when it's difficult, and it requires consistency to keep doing it every day. And those qualities are the foundation of success in every area of life. There is also a sense of honor in Fajr, not in a prideful way, but in a quiet, internal way. You know that you answered a call that many ignored. You know that you chose something meaningful over something easy, and that awareness builds a kind of self-respect that is hard to fake. Fajr changes your life not because it is complicated, but because it is consistent. It touches every part of who you are. Your discipline, your mindset, your spirituality, your time, your decisions. It aligns you. And once you are aligned, things begin to change. Not instantly, not magically, but steadily, in a way that lasts. So the question is not whether Fajr has the power to change your life. The real question is whether you are willing to meet it consistently enough to let it. There is another layer to Fajr that people often overlook, and it's the way it changes your relationship with effort itself. Most people only give effort when there is an immediate return. If they don't feel something quickly, they lose consistency. But Fajr trains you to give effort without needing instant results. You wake up, you pray, and you move forward, day after day. That builds a mindset that is not dependent on quick rewards. It builds patience in action. Allah reminds in the Quran that mankind is in loss except for those who believe. Do righteous deeds and remain consistent in truth and patience. Fajr sits right at the center of that. It is belief in action done repeatedly with patience. And when that becomes part of your life, you begin to understand what real growth looks like. Not sudden, not loud, but steady and deeply rooted. There is also a strong connection between Fajr and self-control. When you wake up at that time, you are actively choosing long-term benefit over short-term comfort. That same decision starts to show up in other areas. You begin to manage your time better. You start thinking twice before wasting hours. You become more aware of what you consume, what you say, and how you act. Allah speaks about those who are mindful of Him even when no one sees them. Fajr strengthens that awareness, because it exists in a time when you could easily stay hidden in sleep. Choosing to wake up creates a level of consciousness that follows you throughout the day. Another powerful effect of Fajr is how it reduces internal chaos. Many people feel scattered. Their thoughts pull them in different directions. Their emotions shift quickly, and they struggle to stay grounded. But starting your day with prayer creates a center. It gives you a reference point that everything else revolves around. Allah mentions that He is the one who gives life after death, and in a smaller way every morning is a return to life. Fajr allows you to begin that return with purpose instead of randomness. It turns waking up into something intentional rather than automatic. There is also something deeply transformative about the consistency of showing up at the same time every day. It builds rhythm, and rhythm creates stability. When your life has stable anchors, it becomes easier to handle uncertainty. You don't feel as lost when things go wrong because you are already grounded in something constant. Fajr also changes how you see time. Instead of seeing it as something that slips away, you start seeing it as something you can shape. You begin your day earlier than most, which gives you space. Space to think, to plan, to act without pressure. That space alone can change your productivity and your mindset. Allah says in the Quran that the night and the day are signs for those who reflect. Fajr sits right at the transition between them. It is a moment designed for reflection, for awareness, for realignment. And when you use it properly, it becomes one of the most powerful points in your entire day. There is also an emotional strength that comes from Fajr. It teaches you how to face discomfort calmly. Instead of reacting to difficulty with avoidance, you learn to move through it. You feel the resistance, but you don't let it control you. That skill is rare, and it's incredibly valuable. Over time, Fajr builds a quiet confidence, not the kind that seeks attention, but the kind that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. You know that when it matters, you will show up. And that belief in yourself changes how you approach challenges. Allah describes the believers as those who are humble in their prayers. Fajr deepens that humility because it reminds you of your dependence. You wake up, you stand, you bow, you prostrate. You acknowledge your need for guidance, for support, for mercy, and that keeps your ego in check. At the same time, it elevates you, because while you are humble before Allah, you become stronger within yourself. You're not easily shaken by people's opinions or by temporary situations. You have something deeper holding you steady. There is also a sense of protection from regret that comes with Fajr. When you start your day right, you reduce the chances of drifting into actions that you later wish you could undo. It doesn't make you perfect, but it makes you more aware, and that awareness acts like a shield. Allah says that He is aware of what you do, even the smallest actions. Fajr is one of those actions that may seem small from the outside but carries a huge weight in reality. It is a consistent statement of priority, a daily declaration of what truly matters in your life. Another important point is that Fajr teaches you how to detach from distractions. When you wake up at that time, you are stepping away from the constant noise that fills the rest of the day. You experience a kind of silence that allows you to think clearly. That clarity is something people search for in many ways, but it is already built into this time. You just have to access it. Fajr also reshapes your nights. When you know you need to wake up early, you start becoming more intentional about how you spend your evenings. You begin to avoid unnecessary distractions. You become more aware of your habits, and that shift improves your overall lifestyle. Allah mentions balance in creation, and Fajr helps you align with that balance. It brings structure to your sleep, your waking hours, and your actions, and that structure leads to stability. There is also something about Fajr that builds sincerity in a way that is hard to replicate, because it is not easy. It requires effort, and effort filters intention. When you consistently show up despite difficulty, it reveals that your intention is real. And sincerity is one of the most powerful elements in any action. It is what gives actions weight. It is what makes small deeds become significant. Over time, Fajr begins to feel less like a task and more like a necessity. You start to miss it when it's gone. You feel the difference in your day when you don't have it. And that awareness deepens your commitment. Allah says that those who remember Him standing, sitting, and lying down are people of understanding. Fajr sets the tone for that kind of remembrance. It reminds you at the very start of your day who you are and what your purpose is. Please don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video, Insha'Allah.